Saturday morning. Join pet trendologist Charlotte Mead and veterinarian Dr. Michael Fleck as they talk all things pets. From animal health and wellness, money-saving tips, celebrity gossip, breaking news, and more. Their expert guests are in the know and in the now. To learn more about this unique program and its hosts, tune into the show on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
The Pet Buzz, Saturday mornings, 8 to 9 a.m.
Tune in Saturdays from 3 to 5 p.m. for Miss Sarah's Dynamic Gospel Power Show. That's 2 hours of great gospel music every Saturday from 3 to 5 p.m., all brought to you by the Ozona Pig Restaurant in Ozona. Yes, that's every Saturday from 3 to 5 p.m. It's Miss Sarah's Dynamic Gospel Power Show. Tune in on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
To dream the impossible dream.
Richard Nixon signed the Peasant Reduction Act, also known as the Federal Election Law of 1971. Under this form of government, just people described in the U.S. Constitution are rated subhuman with no political existence, rights, and voice. Don from Largo.com, TanTalkNetwork.com, 106.1 FM, Tuesdays at 2 p.m.
To be better far than you.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
It's now time for Connecting Caregivers with author, speaker, caregiver advocate, and talk show host, Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for caregivers.
The caregivers around the world today, it's time to lift you up. It's time to celebrate. Good afternoon and welcome to Connecting Caregivers with me, Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for the caregivers with love, laughter, and lessons learned on the show where you can find help and hope. And with me, as always, is the star, my best friend, co-host, and sidekick, not psychic, Lynn Thornley.
Good afternoon. Nice to be here. Happy Independence Weekend.
You look very festive.
I chose this country, you know.
I know you chose
were born
this
into it. I chose it.
I know you did.
I love the headband, though. It's rocking it. Yeah.
It's rocking it. Ed's kind of jealous, huh, Ed?
She's always a day late, though.
I was going to call. And $1 short.
Oh, my God. Ed's always got to give you the razz.
I know.
And that other voice you hear is my friend Sue Ryan, who's with us today. Welcome.
It's so wonderful to be here.
So glad you're here. So the first thing I want to do is I want to give a shout out to our newest listeners. We have Susan in Ohio, Joy in Tampa, and Terry in Largo. And
welcome.
Yes. And like I say, there's always plenty of room around the Connecting Caregivers table for more listeners, whether you listen when we're live on AM/FM or on YouTube or Facebook or my website or wherever. We're just glad that you're here. I'm going to start the show reminding you that if you need a resource, if you have a question, if you need a support group, whatever you need, contact me. If I don't have the answer, I promise you I will find the answer for you through somebody. I'm very blessed to be in this Tampa Bay community where we have professionals that really want to make a difference.
Yeah.
And really care about what they're doing. They're not going to, if you call somebody about something and they don't have the answer or they can't work it for you, they're going to go, hey, wait a minute. I got somebody else that can help you.
That's such a gift.
And I'm telling you, just this morning on the support group, I did a virtual support group this morning. The things we learn, the things you forget about, the things, one of the girls, those robotic animals that they have, the cat and the dog, and they have birds now too. Well, one of the girls, yeah, I wouldn't want a bird, but one of the girls, Mary Jo Belmont, she had one on her. You could see it while she was on the Zoom.
Yeah.
And one of the gals said, "What is that?" And then we explained it. And two of the people in the support group was like, "I need that for my loved one."
Oh, yeah. We had when my husband was in a care community, they had the baby dolls that actually move.
Yeah.
And they make sounds, and the women would just rock with them and hold them. Yeah. It was incredibly comforting. One of the best times of day for that was in that afternoon.
Sundowners.
Yeah. It was almost like a tranquilizer. It would just, because the movement was so gentle for them, and they would do it, and it would calm them. You could physically see them calm.
Well, one of my caregivers, I remember this was years ago, and she's like, my mother just will never stay still. She'll just never sit still. She got her one of those cats. And she goes, she'll sit there for 2 hours petting that
and they
cat.
pet them. Oh, yeah.
And then she told her.
And they purr.
Yeah.
They have that.
And
that's
they
the
open
cool
their
thing.
eyes, blink their eyes.
They'll sit on your lap and they purr, and
Yeah.
I mean, and it's so comforting
Yeah.
to be. Oh yeah, they're fabulous.
Yeah.
Don't
And-
get me a baby. You get me a dog.
Yeah, I know you.
Yeah, pet the dog.
No babies for me.
Well, I remember
Yeah.
Lana's mother. My girlfriend Lana, her mother was in a community on Long Island, actually. And I sent her a cat. And she was so happy to get it. And she was so cocky. She was like, they all got those baby dolls. I got a cat that meows. She was so very happy.
She's like, I'll see your baby doll and raise you a cat.
Exactly. So it was absolutely wonderful. And that woman that I was telling you about that was very agitated, would pet that cat for 2 hours. And then she told her daughter, when I pet the cat, I feel loved.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a whole
That's
other thing
beautiful.
too to talk about there about like touching each other
Yeah,
and hugging
connection.
each other and touching each other.
Yeah, it's connection because there's not a lot, especially if you're in a care community. There's so much concern about how you touch and who touches and
Right.
being appropriate and
Right.
all that. And so being able to have those physical connections that are appropriate and have people feel that way is just wonderful.
Yeah.
And at home, like when my husband was at home, you can't be with him all the time, but when
No.
they've got something that helps them feel calm. My dad loved it too. My dad and stepmom had a real dog, but he was like a lap dog. He would just sit there for hours and my dad would just pet and
Yeah.
stroke. So you feel it and there's that connection, which is great.
Yeah. And they also talked about on the support group this morning, there's a radio and you can log in whatever kind of songs you put it in there,
Mhm.
and your loved one just opens the lid and it goes on and just shuts it. So it's really not hard
That's
for
pretty
anybody
cool.
that has that. You can put in whatever songs you want. Doesn't have a lot of buttons. It doesn't have a
Yeah.
lot of things. Stays at one volume.
Did anybody talk about the night light, the revolving ceiling projector light?
No, tell me.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
first, tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about yourself. 'Cause, like, who is this woman talking on the show?
Who is she?
Yes.
As you can tell, I've been in a few roles of family caregiving
Yes.
support. Yes, I've been in a variety of roles of family caregiving support over the past 40 years. My first one started in my 20s, and I had multiple ones while I was a business professional where you couldn't self-identify. And in the beginning, as we were talking about before we went on the air, there were no manuals for it. There was
Yeah.
nobody who wanted to talk about it.
Nobody talked about
Nobody talked about it. Or they're just having a moment, and the doctors didn't have solutions. I'd go to the library. Thank you. No, there was nothing there. And so it was really frustrating. And I say it was like being on a roller coaster, often blindfolded.
Yeah.
And I've been on multiple journeys since then, which means that there's a purpose for that. So that's kind of become the purpose of my life, is to help other people's journeys be easier and for them to learn faster.
Well, you know,
than I did.
when I was reading your bio, there's one sentence in there that says she moved from feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, and yes, sometimes frightened,
Absolutely.
to confident, balanced, and supported, navigating the transitions in her life, her care receivers, and those that support them on their journey.
That's exactly what I've done. And I feel like any experience that happens in my life is to be combined with all of the things I've learned to then also share with others to help them.
Right.
Because otherwise, it's just an experience that happened. And for me, it's, okay, now how do I help others?
Yeah. And it gives you purpose too. Because
Absolutely.
I have caregivers in my support groups and their loved one passes away and they come back to the group, which is all good and fine. And now we've started a mentoring program.
Yes.
So, if your loved one comes in, you come in the group, your loved one has Parkinson's and someone else, their loved one passed from Parkinson's, they can mentor you and they can talk to you during the week and they're going to tell you tips that I don't know about.
And what I respect a lot, and I've talked with both ends of the spectrum, there are people who, like me, it's helped them step into that. For example, I've had a number of hospice experiences, and they have been so profound that I've now become a certified hospice volunteer as well. And yet I also respect there are people at the other end is that I want nothing to do with it. And I am sure you would agree, we give you permission to have that be your perspective as well.
Right.
You get done with your caregiving journey, you do not have to want to go right back into that or share it with anybody or do anything if you don't want to.
Right.
Yeah.
Because everybody's different. Everybody has their own experience.
Everybody's different. Yeah.
And things, like even when we were chatting on the support group this morning. So yesterday was the 4th of July. So everybody was kind of a little sad yesterday. Either the loved one has passed, like me, I wanted to be in New York having a barbecue in the pool with my husband, kind of thing.
I had nowhere to wear my hat.
Yeah, exactly. Or one woman was like, she takes care of her mom and dad. She says, all my dad would want is a barbecue. So there's that loss and that sadness.
And I actually flip that, though. For me, this is the lens that I have in my life, which is not the lens other people need to have. Right. I celebrate the memories and I celebrate the joy. And for example, when we talk about my husband, I say we're celebrating his birthday back into heaven, that he was a man of faith and didn't fear death. And so I celebrate with joy, thinking of, I don't have to know what heaven is, but I think of it that way. And then when I think of the things, for example, we as caregivers have what I've called drip grief, where there's, like I knew that last time I was going to hold my husband's hand watching the sunset on the beach. So we get a little bit of that along the way. There's also that joy, and the joy stays in there. And so that's the lens I have. Yeah. With my perspective. And I invite people into the consideration that they can give themselves permission to remember with joy. And we so often think we have to remember from a place of grief and sadness and loss. And we don't. We can have a combination of both.
Well, and so great that we had those experiences, because sometimes we start forgetting about that stuff. The other day was my daughter's 45th birthday. Yes, I know, because I'm 45. I am 45.
You're getting old.
But,
you're not, but she is.
I don't have kids.
That's why you're younger. But, we talked about, and with her dad and everything, her first birthday, her 5th birthday, her 18th birthday, or whatever. And it was just delightful. We really enjoyed talking about it, and that we had those experiences. And like one year, she goes, I don't even remember that. She goes, I think I remember because there were photos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that's how we remember most of our stuff. We think we remember it. Yeah. I remember going to her first birthday party I ever went. Yeah. Everybody had been kicked out.
No, that was the second.
The first one I went to.
Oh, that you went to.
Yeah.
But it was lovely that we had to have that, we had those conversations, because you forgot.
You do. It's easy to, and the photos do really help us get back and remember. I used photos with Jack, for example, as he was transitioning. So part of the great thing about having taken a lot of photos, when we would get ready to go to dinner, I had a cork board, and I would put a picture of the person we were going to be having dinner with, or the people, and I would put their name underneath it. And we would talk and have conversations about, and I would say, well, tell me a story about them and things. And it would just bring it back into what they were thinking about. And so it was easier for him when we got there to recall them and catch something for him. Yeah. So take lots of pictures.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, happy birthday.
Is it your birthday?
No, my husband. Whose name is Jack.
Yes. Happy birthday, Jack.
He would have been 93 today.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, photos are important. I totally believe photos are important all the time.
All the time, yeah.
I know you do.
It's very bad. When the day I die, the kids going through my photos and my written word is going to be their biggest problem of all. But, my grandson, my great-grandson is 16 months old now, 17 months. And they just moved to Florida, but they were living in Colorado. So she had to send me 3 photos of him every week. I said, I don't want to hear anything. I want 3 photos a week. I put them on like a little digital frame, but then I print them out. So I have an album, and it has a 5x7 pocket and a 5x7 pocket. So I put the photo in there, and then I'm journaling to him.
Love it.
So the first one's the sonogram, and it's like, I don't know who you are, but I can't wait to meet you.
Let's see what you look like when you come out.
Yeah, and now we have all these whole year.
That's beautiful.
Of photos. I'll put a Dr. Seuss quote in, or Mr. Rogers, or
a treasure.
Whatever, but
just a beautiful treasure.
Because what are you going to say one day? You want to see my baby photos? Let me scroll back 20 years.
No, I think that books. We had too many photo albums. I mean, they're all in my garage in tubs, but I'd like the special ones like that.
Yeah.
That have only me in them.
All right, so let's talk about, so you've been on all these journeys.
I have.
Professionally and personally.
Yes.
And what do you think is the biggest lesson?
I just love this question, because the answer to it is such a powerful answer, and it's really 2 pieces of the journey that cannot be separated. They're just so intertwined. The first part of the answer is self-care. We tend to not prioritize self-care on a regular basis anyway.
Yep.
And then we add caregiving. And when we need more time, well, and so calling out myself right here, for example, I don't need to go to the gym every day. I'll just go every other day. So I can grab an hour there. That's really great. We tend to shave off our own self-care because we need to do more and more and more. And then I, for example, will use myself. I shaved off more than I had capacity for. And one day I had this moment, and I call it the potato chip moment, when I served my husband, Jack, his lunch, and he had potato chips on the plate, and he dropped a potato chip. Now, on any day of my life, it would be like, okay, no big deal. It's a potato chip. Fortunately, I had the grace of space, which is this moment that I created that phrase to be that moment between when something happens and you choose what you're going to say or do, how you're going to respond. What went on in my head was,
Damn,
you dropped a potato chip. I've been working hard all day long. Seriously, can't you keep your potato chips on your plate? And I'm thinking where is that coming from? So I put potato chips on his plate and said, honey, I'll be back in a minute. And I walked away and I went to the other room and I sat down and said, what just happened? I would not say anything like what I was saying in my head. I would not say that out loud to anybody anyway. It's not anything that came to me. And I realized I had shaved off self-care and that nobody else can care for us.
Except us.
Nobody else can do our own self-care. So we have got to prioritize. The more we have to do for others, the more we need to prioritize our self-care. And the other side of that, which cannot be separated, is don't journey alone.
Right.
Part of the reason that we think that we can shave off self-care is because we think, well, we can do this on our own. We don't need help.
It's my responsibility.
It's my responsibility. Or, I can do this. I can add this on. Or, well, we promised for better or for worse.
Yeah.
And I don't need any help. I don't want to burden anyone else. Well, first of all, stop it. Just stop it.
Yeah.
Those don't really serve you or support you. And you would help others. So, it is practice self-care, prioritize it. Now, the way you make sure you prioritize self-care, you guys would be great with this. You get an accountability partner.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be so bad at doing it on my own because I would just keep going off and doing things.
Yeah.
And I got an accountability partner, and anybody I've encouraged to do that is great. So get an accountability partner, and seriously, don't journey alone. I mean, there will be times when you'll help others, but in the season when you need help, ask for help.
And schedule your self-care.
Oh, yeah.
You have to schedule, there's certain things I do every morning that I do every morning. There's certain things that I do every week that I do every week, no doubt about it. The last thing I want one day, as I age, I don't want my children I don't want to watch them suffering because they're trying to help me because they're not taking care of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think my mother would want to see me that way, burned out and ready to cry, and because I didn't take care of myself.
Nobody would want you to be that way. They would not want that. And we wouldn't want that for anyone else. So why does it make it okay for us to do that? And really, truly getting an accountability partner in there and not journeying alone is a great way to make sure. Unless you've gotten the strength to know that you can do your own self-care.
It takes a lot of practice.
Yeah. And it's so easy just to revert to because we naturally tend to do that. So that's a big lesson.
Yeah. And I can get out of it. I go to Curves 3 mornings a week.
Good for you.
Yeah. But you know what? There's sometimes a week I only go twice. And I'm like, be careful. Because all of a sudden you'll be going once.
Oh, yeah.
Be careful. Because all of a sudden you'll be skipping a whole week.
Stop it. I exercise every day. And when I miss a day, then it's hard to get back.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
Just one day can make it a big difference. I'm like, I say, if there's 90-year-old ladies are over there, I can get my fanny over there.
That's right. And so when you've got other people looking out for you and they're going to hold you to it, it makes it easier for you to do. And when you realize you're not doing it just to do it, it's not like something you check off your list. It's whether you just sit and meditate. I mean, self-care doesn't necessarily mean you're going to the gym. It's whatever allows you to be your best version of yourself, to calm yourself, or to, for me, it's exercise. And I do something called centering prayer. And so it just, whatever it is we do, get your nails done. You'll do,
Color if you want. Do whatever you want to do.
Anything, but do it.
Yeah, but do it. And the thing is, all right, caregivers,
as they say, just do it.
Just do it. But and caregivers, as you're listening to me, those friends of yours that always say all the time, "What can I do to help you?" Answer them. Let them help you. They want to help you. I've said this before. When my mom passed away, I met a friend in the supermarket. She said, "How you doing, Linda?" I said, "I'm okay." She said, "I'm sick of hearing that from you."
Yeah.
I said, "What?" And she said, "When you took care of your mother, you stole my joy." I said, "What?" She said, "I could see you swimming in quicksand, and every time I asked to help you said, no, I'm okay." So not only did you not let me help you, you didn't give me the opportunity to meet your mother. And
to provide help because it fills people's heart. I have a great tip for that. You want to hear my tip on that? Okay. Of course. It's very helpful for us to help other people know how to help us. One of the things that I did is I broke things down into something that would take about 5 minutes, something that might be 15 minutes, something about a half an hour, something a couple of hours. So I would identify different kinds of things. And I pretty much knew friends and
who could do
what. And if somebody said, "Hey, do you need anything?" And I would say, "Yes, I really appreciate your offer. If you've got like 5 minutes, this is something that would be, oh yeah, I got some more time though. What would you like?" So you help them help you. And whenever they say, "May I help you?" say yes, because you have the gift of being on the receiving end of something. It fills their heart to do, like you were talking with your friend. You will have the capacity someday to be on the giving side as well, which you already know you want to do. So help them help you.
And right now, we're going to hear from our wonderful partners, because you know the deal. If you don't hear from them, you don't hear from me. So don't go away. We'll be right back on Connecting Caregivers Radio.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live. It's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides.
Sean W. Scott has been practicing elder law and qualifying clients for Medicaid for over 30 years. While his practice is in all areas of estate planning, such as durable power of attorney, healthcare surrogates, and wills, he also prides himself on having a 100% accuracy rate on getting clients approved for Medicaid. Why Medicaid, you may ask? Do you want to pay up to $16,000 a month for a nursing home should the time come? Obviously, no one wants to have to endure this cost. So even though you may have planned well for retirement, the reality is things happen. Planning ahead is never too soon. You need to make sure your income and assets are protected so that you can take care of you and your loved ones. Florida law is very specific on how and what is protected and how to protect it. Give Sean a call. He can help. 727-539-0181. That's 727-539-0181.
My mom was getting older, but she was able to live pretty independently until recently. When her case manager told me she would be discharged from rehab in just a few days, I didn't know what to do. But I knew for sure that she couldn't go back living alone at home. So that's when I contacted Sunway's Senior Living Concierge. My Senior Living Concierge, Lisa, was there for me through the whole process and was a free service for us to compare in-home care options and how that cost would compare to assisted living. With Lisa's help, we found a great new home for Mom, and she is thriving. Take it from me, don't go through this journey alone.
Hi, I'm Ellie Baldwin, co-founder and president of Sunway's Senior Living Concierge. We're a free placement and concierge service for families to help compare senior living communities and find the best place for you or a loved one. Call us today at 727-314-6451 or find us online at sunwayseniorliving.com.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
And we're back. I'm loving this conversation. So Let's talk about the caregivers
No,
journey.
wait. First, let's hear about
Oh
that.
yeah, what about the light thing that you
light.
started telling earlier?
Oh, the ceiling projector. One of the things that I noticed was Jack would lay in bed at night and he would be looking up.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's pretty boring. Or sometimes in the day when he was laying in bed, he'd be looking up. And I was like, it's a cream-colored ceiling. I got to fix that. Ceiling projectors. They have these ceiling projectors, and you can have it do like lights. You can have it do photos. You can have it change around. You could just have it colors or
Great
shapes or
idea.
anything like that. So I bought him a ceiling projector. And I had it go on. You can have it programmed. So you program it when it goes on and off. You can change all the things. He was fascinated by it. And it's also great. So we tried it on several residents who had agitation. Well, they just get fixated on it.
Yeah.
And it's you can have it be very, very calming.
Could you have stars and different things?
Stars. You can have an aquarium.
Yeah,
you can
ocean,
have your
yeah.
family photo. We did one where one of the care receivers hadn't seen their grandchildren. We put movies up there so they could see the movies of them. And because many people who are more senior and also who perhaps can't be wearing their glasses or they walk away, when you do the ceiling projector and it could go on the wall, they have it very large. It's like going to the movie theater.
Right.
And so you could do it when you're sitting up and have it against the wall. It was fascinating. The ceiling projector is huge.
That's great.
That's
I
a
love
great
that.
one.
Well, like when my dad was ill, my stepmother had a huge fish tank put in, like the whole wall by the bottom, at the foot of his bed, and he would for hours.
Well, you
watch
can have
them
the ceiling projector be a fish tank.
It's a lot easier than putting that big fish tank in.
Yeah,
It's quite a big
feeding them
deal.
and going
It was
away
a
and having
project.
Right.
Yeah.
A
You don't
project.
have to feed the projector.
Yeah, no.
You just have
not
to
at
make
all.
sure it's plugged in or charged up.
Like your hearing aids.
Oops.
Anyway, all right. So what led you to create the Caregiver's Journey?
Because I'd been on so many journeys and I felt, okay, I have navigated this journey and I want people to really understand the journey and some of the really important lessons that I had learned that weren't being shared traditionally. And the phases I created, the first phase is called the Caregiver's Primer. And it's for things, you know, when you see it on the horizon or it hasn't even started, or all of a sudden you're sitting in the office and there's a diagnosis. So what do you do to get started in the journey or get prepared for the journey? The second phase is one that I learned studying other modalities, which is called The Journey Begins With Me, which is understanding our personalities and understanding the way we're naturally wired. What I saw so much throughout the years with other caregivers, and it was simple for me to almost jump right into that if I hadn't learned this already, is that we're naturally wired to view the world. We deal with stress differently. When we're in our caregiving journey and we see the way others are doing it, we think, well, gee, I'm not doing this well enough, or we judge ourselves, or we get emotional, or we get angry. We don't necessarily go to school to understand our natural personalities.
Right.
So when you understand it, you can say, okay, well, this is how I naturally deal with stress, or I naturally deal with grief. Then we're having our journey, not trying to live someone else's journey and feeling worse about it. So that's that. Then the third one is, you know, it's kind of day in and day out. It's kind of that messy middle of just all the different kinds of things. And then I put the grace of grief as the fourth phase, although we're grieving throughout the entire journey. And I talk about drip grief. So there's a little bit of grief along the way. But I also talk about the fact that grief is an emotion we're meant to have. If we weren't meant to have it, we wouldn't have it. Like we have joy and anger and we have fear.
Yeah.
So there's a purpose for each one. And we don't often think about what's the purpose of grief in our lives. So I introduced the concept of the purpose of the emotion of grief. And the reason I do it is because, you can talk to this very well, so many people, when they navigate grief, get stuck in grief. My last phase is called moving forward. And it's so that you honor the grief, absolutely honor the grief. You don't stay stuck in grief. We're meant to thrive in our lives. And so often in our journey, we're giving of ourselves so much, we kind of forget who we are. And then we feel guilty giving ourselves permission to feel good, just like we did along the journey. Like we feel guilty if we're going to go to lunch and our care receiver can't, things like that. So it's shifting the narrative so that we can then give ourselves permission to go back and thrive in our lives and give ourselves the opportunity to learn from the grief experience and not just stay stuck in it.
And we're all going to go through it.
We're going to go through
No
it.
doubt about it.
Yeah.
It's like when I'm in a support group and I say, do you realize you're grieving? They go,
what?
Yeah, and then all of a sudden they go, yeah. Yeah. And when you think about that, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. It's part of life.
And have permission to do it. But I didn't go to school to learn how to grieve.
No.
And I didn't go to school to learn how to get through grief. And I've read a number of books. And I am not here to talk about any book or program or anything.
Right.
They're all different and they do different things. My thing is that we honor the emotion of grief. And yet we also honor our lives and all the things we've gone, and we give ourselves permission to go back and step back into our lives.
Yeah. So you got a podcast you're going to be launching. Let's talk about that.
Learn from the experts here. Absolutely. A dear friend of mine, Nancy Treaster, her husband, and I worked together when we were in our 20s. We worked together at the same company and we were actually next door neighbors for a number of years. And then I got transferred and we ended up kind of losing touch. But a few years ago, her husband had progressed in his diagnosis where she was experiencing that. I've got no idea what to do. And she and I started having conversations. And then she was also researching. She's amazing at doing research. And she was so frustrated because she'd go out and ask a question and she'd get this like short answer,
God.
But it didn't go all the way through.
Yeah.
And so I went to visit her and her husband, and I said, well, she's like, I feel like I should be writing a blog or something and sharing these messages because I'm
learning
things. And I said, well, I've started a blog. You can put blog things in, but I've always wanted to do a podcast. I just didn't really want to do it on my own. And we decided that we were going to do it because we wanted to share what we call practical tips and candid conversations.
Yep.
This is what it is, and go more in depth on something. And we've phased it to be in the beginning, the messy middle, and then later on. And in the beginning is when they still have or still think they have control. And then the messy middle is when we're starting to assert control. Part of the reason it's so messy. And then later on is we've pretty much taken over control. And then we talk about it in 3 different lenses, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And there is some good in every journey. There's stuff that's bad, and then there is some ugly. And we wanted to make sure people knew about it and learned about not just the elevator speech of it,
right,
but the real details of it.
Yeah. And it's nothing like having a conversation. Reading a book is one thing. Having a conversation is something else. I mean, you look at the book, The 36-Hour Day. Great book. It's so damn thick. It's so dense. I don't know how anybody could read it. Thank God he came out with a new book that's much shorter.
Yeah.
But it's too much. And if they can hear from people that have been through it too, that's a whole different story also.
It's been so helpful. Her journey has included, she has chosen to keep her husband at home. And so her journey is different. I had my dad and I had my grandmother and I had my husband at home for a while. My grandmother we did keep at home the whole time, but both my dad and my husband, we moved into care communities. And so the journeys have been different. Some of the experiences have been different. Yeah. And the lenses of home health care. And so Nancy's got that. And so, so we just have conversations about it. Well, what did you learn? Well, I tried this. And one of the ones we talk about is driving. And it was absolutely hysterical because mine was one way and hers was a complete opposite way.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that it all doesn't work.
It ultimately works. And sometimes we're just laughing like, oh my God, if I had only had something like this when I was going through that, it would have made it so much easier.
Exactly.
So it's an exciting part of it. It's part of our purpose to give back because of the experiences we went through, again, to make it easier for people to learn and for them to learn faster than we did.
Well, and you can have a little laugh.
Oh, gracious, yes.
And you can have a little laugh. That's the best part. You know, when they leave a support group laughing, I'm like, okay, we did good today. We did good today.
There are things to laugh at.
Oh my God, some of the ridiculous things we do.
Oh. Yeah.
Or they do.
Or some of the ridiculous things we think.
Yeah.
It's like, seriously?
Yeah. It makes a whole big, and I just think people love when they can hear it from someone else or when they can hear the voice. Because like I said, we're all going to be going through this. You know, years ago, Rosalind Carter said, you either are a caregiver, you have been a caregiver, you will be a caregiver, somebody who's taking care of you. So I tell everybody it's an equal opportunity employer.
I love that.
Everyone's going to get the opportunity.
Everyone. Well, and I don't know about you. I've went to college and I've got a certificate that says you graduated from college, and I got a master's degree that says you got that. I do not have any kind of a pin or a certificate
Right.
or anything that says, I went to that caregiving school and
I graduated.
I graduated with honors. I didn't know what I didn't know. There's a lot I still don't know.
Oh, and I learn new stuff every day. New ideas, new
Well,
tools.
because some things work for a while and then they don't work. So you need somebody to tell you the next step.
Boy, that is true. That is one of the most profound things, because you're exactly right. You try it on a Tuesday, it works great. You try it on a Wednesday, like,
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are funny stories. Remember the time when Jack, my husband, I lived in a condo in Sand Key, and Linda finally was working for a company that in this field, and so she said, have somebody come in overnight, because I was getting no sleep whatsoever.
Yeah.
They did, and they had their own key. Well, there's a knock on the door, because we had separate rooms at that time, because he would get up and go talk. And I went to the door, opened it, and there was my husband in a diaper with his walker. And he just looked at me and he said, nobody's out.
Nobody's out.
And I went, nah, it's late. Come on in. We'll see them tomorrow. And I'm like, oh my God.
Well,
Yeah.
do you want to share the story about going out on the balcony when you had to go to the bathroom?
Oh, dear, this ought to be good.
We had the separate rooms with the nurse, because he got up all night with the nurse and but in the mornings he'd lie in the bed and he could see me. The master bedroom had a bathroom with it. The room I was in had a bathroom across the hall. And he used to wait for me because, well, whatever reason he had in mind. And I just was like, I can't. So I would pee in a cup and put it on the balcony. I'd have them lined.
And that's when I going to the bathroom. She had like another hour with this girl, or 2 hours, please.
and that's when I said, I keep taking it a step too far.
I think it's time for Plan B.
Yeah, that's what it was.
It was. That was like,
Oh my, that's very creative, though. I got to give you a lot of credit for creativity.
and they were outside, lined them up outside. Isn't that nice? All my neighbors were very thrilled.
If it fell off the balcony, that might have been an interesting experience.
I would have blamed it on him. He's not well.
He's not well.
It's not well.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that
Thank you for
story I
sharing that.
don't normally tell, because I was in. That's when I knew I'd gone over the top. I needed some help.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes you don't even realize it. Like Jen said, my girlfriend Jen took care of her dad for quite a while. And she goes, I didn't realize that I was gritting my teeth till I started to break them.
Oh, wow.
Just didn't realize it. You're going, you're doing your thing every day. You're doing it.
You brought up a point. This would probably be a great one to share. And that is part of the self-care thing as well, is we tend, because it's so difficult to get our care receiver to go with us, even to go to their doctor's appointments, that we just think, oh, but this is just too much. I don't really need to go to the doctor. I'm not going to do this. And we don't go to the doctor.
Right.
And I have talked to people who have gotten cancer diagnoses that they didn't know about. There was someone, a friend of a friend, who literally died of skin cancer and had the itch and had the whole thing, but just like, I'll take care of it later, care of it later, literally died. There are people who have had different diagnoses because they did not go to the doctor, and that's part of self-care.
And they're not eating right. I make sure that you eat. I'm in the kitchen with a cracker and whatever. I make sure that you take your medicine. I make sure that you go to the doctor.
That's a good point. Yeah, I'm getting your vitamins, getting your food, and I'm eating well. I'm getting your food ready, and then I'm doing the dishes, and then think, God bless, of the caregivers who are living with children at home, and they've got mom and or dad at home, and they've got their spouse, and they've got them, and they're working.
Yeah,
and it's a real challenge.
And you don't want, I always say your caregiving experience can be the most horrific experience of your life, or close to beautiful, depending on how you handle it. And it's up to you, because there was some, I don't know, I lucked out with my mom. She had a great sense of humor. It was tough, but I got to have a year and a half with her, just a year and a half with her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you only have so much time.
Sure.
It makes a big difference. And I can just remember a simple thing one day, walking into my den, and my mother's sitting there like this, staring at her hands. And I go, what? And she goes, I'm just looking at these old, ugly arthritic hands. And they were pretty beat up. And normally I would have said, those hands are just fine, Mom, or here's some hand cream. But I sat down and I took her hands in my hands and I said, besides how many dishes these hands washed and how many clothes, I said, these hands wiped my tears, combed my hair, and gave me a little whack on the fanny when I deserved it.
That is so beautiful.
I said, these are the best hands in the world, Mother. And she just and my mother was like, I am. And she just so softly said to me, thank you, Linda. Yeah. And
that's a beautiful thing you did because you met her where she's at, which is another wonderful tip in caregiving is to meet them where they're at. How beautifully you honored her with something that meant so much to her. That's beautiful. What a kind heart.
60 seconds.
Yeah.
No, and it also, you had the brain to do it.
Yeah.
Not everybody would think to do that.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. But
nicer story than I shared.
But when people hear this, they can do it.
Yeah.
I remember a woman coming to me a while back, and her grandma lived with her uncle, and she's like, I think the uncle's stealing her money and this and that.
Yeah.
And the grandma's like 95 years old. And all she kept saying to me is, I don't care about the money. I don't care about the money. I don't care about the money. And when I go there, he argues with me. And the carpet is like filthy dirty. This went on for like a half hour. And finally I said to her, you don't care about the money, right? He said, no. I said, number one, go visit her when he's not home. Number two, take her out. And number three, here's the card to the carpet cleaner. Just get the carpet cleaned.
Yeah.
I said, because do you want to spend the last weeks or months or whatever it is with your grandma, watching you agitated with him, bitching about the rug? Or do you want to spend time with your grandma?
I love that.
And she did. And grandma only lasted like 2 more weeks.
But in
But
her
she had a
heart,
clean rug.
And she had peace.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the, what you said and what I love so much about some of the things that you're sharing it's inviting people into the permission to have a different perspective. It's that we get so just wrapped up in the moment. Yeah, stuck and wanting it to be perfect or seeing the things that are wrong. And just because somebody else is agitated, we go to their energy and we don't have to be. They're inviting us into their energy.
Right.
We can turn that invitation down.
Yeah.
And what would we prefer the outcome to be? What would we prefer it to be? And take a step back. And what you did is, take a step back, invite her into the permission of change the narrative.
Yeah.
Just change the narrative, because then it's going to be her memory of, having the clean carpet and having the peaceful time and doing something that brought her joy instead of hanging on to the things that were negative.
Yeah. I mean, I lucked out with my mom with a lot of stuff, but we need to take the time. We need to take the time to sit down and be with our person and look them in the eyes and touch them and hug them. I talk to people that are long distance caregivers, and they go and they visit mom, but they never hug her. She's sitting in a chair. And then they find out later on that mom has lost 20 pounds and that mom doesn't smell so good because we're not going up close to mom.
Yeah.
We're not holding mom. We're not touching mom. Please do that. Besides the point of a lot of physical things that can happen from that. Take the time. You would never just leave a baby sitting in a chair for 6 hours. Don't leave mom sitting in a chair for 6 hours.
Them. When Jack was diagnosed, literally while we were in the doctor's office, still holding hands, we used to hold hands with our fingers entwined. And I said, hello, love of my life. How's the man of my dreams? And from that day on, I greeted him. Every time I met him, I greeted him the same way. And I would intertwine our fingers and give it a grip. And even when he lost the ability to communicate in the traditional way, I could see in his eyes, or I could see in his mouth, or he could squeeze his fingers that he knew. And it brought joy to my heart that it was still something that we had access to. I didn't. People say, well, aren't you afraid when he doesn't recognize you anymore? And I said, that's his head, not his heart. He has a medical diagnosis that disconnects the connectors that he's going to be able to say something or do something. But the purity of the love in his heart, nothing touches that. It's just expressed differently.
Right.
And I didn't need the outer sign. I knew that the inward sign was always there. And when I shared that, and sometimes he'd get a little grin or sometimes he'd squeeze. And even when he lost capacity to do that, I didn't need that. to know that my heart felt good.
Yeah. Yeah. My stepmother was so good with that with my dad. Just fabulous. And my stepmother is 4'10". My dad was 6'2".
Mm-hmm.
And she took care of him in their apartment in Greenwich Village till the day he died.
Love it.
And he never had a bed sore or nothing. And she had the most fabulous attitude. She'd be like, every morning, how much I love you. And I can remember one night going there, I visited often. And so I went out for a walk and I came back and the two of them are sitting there and she's got a little Prosecco and my dad's got like a 1/4 inch of Jack Daniels. And they're talking about the wonderful life they had. They're not crying and complaining and whining. I mean, he couldn't get out of the bed anymore.
Yeah.
But she was fabulous. She was absolutely, and my dad was in the printing business. Well, my dad, all his problems started out in the beginning when he had a stroke, and then he couldn't really speak. And that my dad's middle name was Jack Daniels. He'd go to the bar after work, did a lot of business at the bar, and all this kind of stuff. And now he couldn't, and his jokes.
Sure.
So he had all his jokes printed on business cards. He handed them out everywhere he wanted. And everybody in the hospital wanted to wait on him.
Love it.
Everybody wanted to help him wherever he was, And I can remember one time that he was in the hospital and there was a man in the bed next to him and the curtain was always closed. And my dad wants to be friendly with everybody. And my dad heard, because when he was talking to his family, that the next day was going to be his birthday. And so he tells my stepmother, Heidi, I want you to bring a cake. I want you to bring balloons and all this stuff. And she brought it the next day. And they opened up the curtain and they gave it to him. And the guy, he was an Afro-American man. He had been a New York City cop his whole life. And he said to my dad, I never really trusted white people until today.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, what he could do, I got the hair standing on my legs right now. What
You didn't shave?
No, it just grew right out. But really, I mean, what can we do with our caregiving experiences?
Yes, and the kindness of it. You said something else that's a powerful tip, especially when we are with our care receiver or we're visiting others. Get to their level.
That's exactly.
So often when people go to visit,
go into their world.
Standing up, and the other person is sitting down. Go to their world, sit with them. If they're not speaking, you don't need to speak. You can just be quiet with them. You can hold hands, or you just or have music. And then if you speak and they don't speak, okay, but meet them where they're at and meet them at their height.
Yeah,
because
look them in the eye.
It's like children.
Yeah,
it's like with children, you get down to talk
get to their
them.
level. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, it's time to hear from our wonderful partners, so don't go away. We'll be right back on Connecting Caregivers Radio.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Choosing the right chiropractor is an important choice to make. Located in Seminole, the Alexander Spine Center team is trained on the latest chiropractic treatments and technologies. At Alexander Spine Center, you'll find chiropractic and physical therapy care that is safe, effective, and a natural approach to pain and other health-related issues. Chiropractic unlocks your body's potential and natural healing process to ensure your life is a healthy life. We treat clients from the womb to the tomb. Call 727-397-3000 for a free consultation today, or visit our website at www.alexanderspinecenter.com.
They take good care of me twice a week, so check them out.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live. It's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides.
We believe the power of the human body and mind can do amazing things, and that tapping into that power, not just tricking it with a temporary disguise, is possible. Superpatch technology uses a special pattern and vibrotactile technology to help you go from feeling blah to hurrah. Now, once the Superpatch is in contact with your skin, it triggers a neutral response in the brainstem that helps you tackle your daily problems head on. Whether you're struggling with pain, balance, stress, or focus, we have a solution that might be right for you. With Super Patch's 30-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Hi, this is Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for the caregivers. I started using the Liberty Patch over 3 years ago. I used to be a tripper, but since wearing the Liberty Patch, I haven't tripped once. The Liberty Patch is proven to reduce the risk of falling by up to 8 times. And as we all know, if you prevent the fall, you prevent the call. Don't wait until it's too late. Preventative solutions are the answer.
Super Patch does not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure illness. Super Patch is FDA registered. To receive 25% off your first order, go to sticktoit.info. That's sticktoit.info and learn more.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
You know how I love those super patches? I had a friend call me yesterday who was wearing the new Lumi patch, which is supposed to be for your skin to make it lovely. And she said to me, my psoriasis is gone.
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, drug-free. But we'll talk about that another time. So, Sue, first of all, I'm excited to say that Sue is going to be part of our next conference in November.
Yes, ma'am.
So you'll have a whole hour to hear from her without a lot of interruptions, which I'm very excited about. What's the last thing you want our caregivers to hear from you today?
We're all on this journey together. We don't need to navigate it alone. It's a perfectly imperfect journey. Give yourself tons of grace and love yourself through it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
So appreciate it. We have some great events coming up. July 10th with Dr. Tam Cummings, who is absolutely fabulous, gerontologist, speaker, and author. It's sponsored by Arden Courts. It's from 10 to 12 is the lunch. Although it says 10 to 4 on the flyer, the lunch and the speaking is 10 to 12. And then there are consultations from 1 to 4 o'clock. So if you want to have a consultation with Dr. Tam Cummings about your loved one, it's free of charge. So there's still a few seats left. I'll be there. Come meet me. And the phone number is 727-517-7800. And that will all be on my website also. Also, Saturday, July 14th, we have the Summer Ponytail Challenge. And it's for people, for kids with cancer and other medical conditions who have lost their hair. So you have to have at least 10 inches to cut off. And it's going to be at the DOD Coffee Roastery in Largo. And the information, you can go to 424-9243. And then the Veterans Heat Factory. Oh, that was over. Yeah. Okay, so
There we
we're
go.
good. Remember, if you need a support group, go to my website. I do live support groups. I do support groups online. I do a journaling workshop online. Also on my calendar are other people's support groups and their events and their speaking engagements, because I'm not the only girl in town, nor do I want to be the only girl in town. So there's tons of information. You can get it all in one place. Go to the website. Nominate someone for the caregiver contest. Takes you like 5 minutes. Every single person that's nominated receives a gift from me. And then once a quarter, we just pick out one name randomly, because you're all winners to us. And you get a big gift basket with a massage and a facial and respite care and Amazon gift cards and all sorts of stuff.
That's beautiful.
So, yeah, I mean, and just when someone gets nominated and I send them a journal or a book, they're so excited that someone thought about that.
Yes. Yes.
It's so simple. So go and do it. Love you guys. You know I'm here if you need me. Tune in next week for another fabulous show. Remember, God loves you all the time, and have a delicious day.